Last time on Dragon Ball Z, heroes clashed, villains rose, and the fate of the universe hung by a thread. But behind the legendary battles lurked an even greater enemy: inconsistency. Were the Potara Earrings supposed to fuse warriors forever? Was Majin Buu created by a wizard, or has he always existed? Did Frieza destroy Planet Vegeta out of fear, or was it Beerus pulling the strings? Now, prepare yourselves as we unravel the greatest contradictions, lore, rewrites, and jaw-dropping retcons in Dragon Ball Z.
You ever heard of a retcon? You know what that is? The retcon is a retroactive continuity change. It's when a new piece of information contradicts or significantly alters something previously established in the story. It's different from a single inconsistency or a later clarification, although sometimes the lines blur. It's not that serious. But listen up, Dragon Ball fans. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be going through the top 10 retcons in Dragon Ball history. What were they? What did they affect? What was rewritten in the story in order to make something later make sense, or forgotten about entirely? And stick around to the end, because I got a few honorable mentions that aren't necessarily retcons, but are still interesting things that were either de-emphasized, completely forgotten about, or, you know, whatever.
So as we go through these, I'd really encourage you, the listener, to think about how these shifts might impact your own memories of Dragon Ball.
I agree.
Try these on. Go ahead. Snap this onto your left ear, would you?
Is this supposed to make me feel strong or something?
Now simply have Gohan snap this one onto his right ear. Immediately your bodies will be bound together and much stronger. My type of fusion.
This earring trick is just what we need. Hey, how long will the people stay joined for, old Kai?
The power of the earrings has no time limit. It lasts forever. Once joined, you can never return to your original body.
That's good to know. Boy, I'd better choose the right person then.
Indeed.
Our first major retcon was with the Potara Earrings. Originally, in the Buu saga, the Elder Kai explicitly told Goku that the Potara Earrings, once you fuse with them, that this was a permanent fusion. It would last forever, even if the earrings were removed. And so this created a lot of tension in the decision for Vegeta to fuse with Goku. They would never be able to separate. So Vegito was expected, that combination was expected to be irreversible. And his split, once inside of Buu, was explained as an anomaly. Something weird that happened just because of the general bio makeup of the insides of being inside of Buu or whatever. And so this is odd. It's weird. It's not supposed to work this way. Dragon Ball Super completely nerfed this concept.
目に合体した時は二度と戻れたな。
でないものに対する合体効果は一度
だな。
In the Future Trunks arc, the Supreme Kai Gowasu clarified that the Potara Earrings the fusion only lasts for an hour among mortals, with only Kaioshin fusions remaining permanent. This was a clear retcon, likely introduced in order to have beloved warriors combine only temporarily for some epic fight. It seems as if now the official stance is that these fusions with the Potara Earrings only last an hour.
Long ago, a powerful wizard named Bibidi first appeared. With him, he brought a terrible monster of his own creation, whose sole purpose was to destroy. The name of that monster was Majin Buu.
In Dragon Ball Z, the narrative was pretty straightforward. Majin Buu was a monstrous weapon created by the evil wizard Bibidi. This was an understood origin, with Bibidi then sealing Buu away and Babidi unsealing him. However, Akira Toriyama later changed the story altogether in a 2014 interview. He stated that Buu actually existed since time immemorial, cycling between dormancy and rampages. Bibidi didn't create him, he merely found out how to control him, or so he thought. This means that Dragon Ball Z's Bibidi created him is just misinformation, in-universe misinformation. However, if you've watched Daima, the story changes again, I think, as we watch a lady make more Buu-type people with Buu-type stuff, and they claim that they made them. So, I don't know. Akira Toriyama said this in 2014 and then later wrote Daima, so I'm guessing Daima's the official go-to now. That one switched and switched again.
Feels so much better now.
The original Dragon Ball Z story on this was clear. Frieza hated the Saiyans, and he alone destroyed planet Vegeta. He alone wiped out the planet Vegeta because he feared the Saiyans could one day bring about a Super Saiyan who would defeat him. So he had the fear in his heart. That is why he did it. His paranoia and his arrogance were his sole motivations. But then Dragon Ball Super comes along and adds a big old twist. Actually, Beerus was behind it all along.
Whatever happened to Planet Vegeta? Didn't Frieza blow it to bits?
Yes, he destroyed it while you were sleeping, which shouldn't come as a surprise, considering you told him to do so.
In the Battle of the Gods arc, Whis reveals that Frieza destroyed Planet Vegeta with Beerus' knowledge and blessing. And then Beerus reveals that actually he ordered the destruction of Planet Vegeta while he was asleep. This retroactively changes why the planet was destroyed. It wasn't just Frieza's fear, but it was also Beerus' decree, which I guess integrates these new divine characters into the old lore, which is kind of cool, but it kind of takes away from, you know, a lot of Frieza's own free will.
What happened to your tail, Kakarot?
It was removed permanently a long time ago.
In early Dragon Ball Z, the Saiyan's monkey tail was a fundamental part of their biology. Goku, Gohan, they both were born with them. In fact, Gohan had his tail cut off a couple times and grew it back. So the expectation was that all Saiyans, including half-breeds, would have these things. But by the time Goten and Trunks were born, they were nowhere to be found. Neither half-Saiyan had tails. This was a glaring inconsistency that was never addressed in the show. And I said it in my previous video, but out of universe, Toriyama admitted that it was just annoying to draw tails. And that was it. Originally, in Dragon Ball Z, becoming a Super Saiyan was almost mythic, unheard of. It required an extreme emotional trigger, whether it was intense rage or grief, whatever, desperation, alongside immense training. And, you know, Goku, and the first time he turned Super Saiyan was epic. It's one of the best scenes of all time. I certainly felt that emotional pull from everyone dying, especially Krillin dying. It was treated as this like emotional and spiritual metamorphosis. And there was no biological explanation to it at all, except for needing a strong heart. And then in 2017, Toriyama introduced a pseudo-scientifical explanation. S cells. He stated that a Saiyan needs a sufficient amount of S cells in order to be able to turn into a Super Saiyan. And S cells increase the more you live a gentle, calm life. Anger is still a trigger, but only after reaching a certain S cell count. And then the Dragon Ball Super anime also introduced having a tingly back sensation as a method for transformation, which is a major retcon for how Saiyans achieve this legendary form.
Once you cross the threshold, you ought to spend a year in the room, but when you leave, only a day will have passed in this dimension.
In Dragon Ball Z, the time chamber had strict, life-threatening limits. Mr. Popo explained that you could only be in there for a maximum of 2 days, which would be equivalent to 2 years, and that's a maximum for your entire life. If you exceed that, you get trapped in there, the door seals forever. And you never can get out of the chamber. You would be trapped in this void dimension forever and ever. This is why Goku and Vegeta, Gohan, they all used it very sparingly. Now, if you remember when Buu and Gotenks were fighting in there, they were able to just bust a hole in the void and get out, and it was... So that kind of threw that out the window already. But then also, in Dragon Ball Super, Dende repairs the time chamber, and the old limits are just thrown out the window. The 2 days and a whole lifetime limit is completely gone. Goku and Vegeta proceed to use it a ton for 3 years straight, just 3 days on the outside, right before the Universe 6 tournament. And so previously this was completely impossible. And so what was once a life-threatening rule in Dragon Ball Z is just now just doesn't exist anymore. And so this allowed for the plot to facilitate further training arcs, whatever, but they kind of just threw that out the window.
There was a terrible villain who lived way back then. Well, not as terrible as Majin Buu, but still pretty bad. So he tricked me. He sealed me away inside the Z-Sword, from whence I came.
When old Kai was sealed away in the sword and, later busted out of it, he explained that he was sealed up in that sword from some mystical, magical evil guy. Or he said terrible bad guy. And he said the enemy that he was up against was nearly as powerful as Majin Buu. And so everyone speculated who that could have been. Toriyama never explained who it was. But again, Dragon Ball Super rolls around and reveals it was none other than Beerus himself.
Beerus has only been awake for half a day, and this is hardly the first time he's caught me off guard with his quickness. The truth is that he's the one who trapped me inside the Z-Sword.
So in a gag scene in the show, and also in some guidebooks, that's explained it was Beerus that sealed him up. And all because he was punishing him for losing an argument.
When a Supreme Kai dies, the destroyer of that universe dies with him.
No way! Is that true? So if I wanted to defeat you, Lord Beerus, I'd just have to get rid of Supreme Kai and that's it?
In Dragon Ball Z, the Supreme Kais were gods of creation, but there was no concept yet of a god of destruction, and certainly not anything linked to them or their death. Supreme Kai, during the Majin Buu saga, he almost died multiple times, and there was no tension that this would cause any issue otherwise. Now, it would have been tragic, but there was no real stakes to him dying. Dragon Ball Super establishes this direct link between the god of destruction and the god of creation, and so if one dies, the other dies. And so that was explained why in Future Trunks' timeline, Beerus didn't exist. So that's actually a cool one because retroactively it raises the stakes of Supreme Kai's life. But you don't really know about it while watching the show unless you watch Super, then you watch Z again. Either way, I mean, it's a cool retcon at least.
Learn what happens when you mess with the most powerful being in the universe! You fool!
In Dragon Ball Z, Frieza was portrayed as this unrivaled enemy of Universe 7, an absolute tyrant. The only thing he feared was the myth of the Super Saiyan. There was no indication that he ever knew about Majin Buu or Beerus, and his arrogance was rooted in himself believing that he was the strongest being in the universe, aside from perhaps his father. And his army also seemed ignorant of any higher power. And then, of course, Dragon Ball Super came around in the Resurrection F arc and changed the story altogether.
But my lord, he even beat Majin Buu.
Father once said there were two warriors in the universe I was never to challenge. Beerus the Destroyer and Majin Buu.
King Cold actually warned Frieza about the existence of Majin Buu and Beerus. And Frieza was stunned to find out that Goku defeated Buu. Even though if you remember Dragon Ball Z, I'm pretty sure Frieza watched Goku defeat Majin Buu. And so this new information, though, changes our perspective on Frieza's hubris, implying that he was aware of greater power the entire time, but he never imagined that a Saiyan would be among that higher power level.
Power levels 8,000. Vegeta, what did you say his power level is? It's over 9,000.
The Scouters were iconic in Dragon Ball Z, early Dragon Ball Z, and they were standard tech for the Saiyans and for Frieza and his army. The anime itself never explained their origins, but non-canon sources like Bardock, the father of Goku, and early guidebooks suggest that the Saiyans acquired them from the Tuffles. an advanced race that they conquered on planet Plant. In 2014, Toriyama revealed a definitive origin that clarified and slightly retconned the details. He stated that the Suferians, aka the Tuffles, did invent primitive scouters. However, it was Frieza's scientists that changed them to be able to read power levels and added communication features. So while the Tuffle origin remained, Frieza's army was responsible for the upgrade that brought us the scouters that we actually know today. All right, so that's the top 10 retcons of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super technically, and just things that Toriyama said. Now, I'd like to get into some honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Honorable mentions. Honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions, baby. Things that I thought were some more inconsistencies, things that got de-emphasized. You know, they're not full retcons, but they still altered Dragon Ball's lore over time.
The first and last mistake you made was to underestimate the power of a Saiyan warrior. While so many others grow weaker during battle, we Saiyans become stronger. You can bleed us to the brink of death, crush every bone in our bodies. It only makes us more powerful.
Early Dragon Ball Z talks up how the Saiyans get stronger after they're defeated with Zenkai power. I don't know if they say it that way, but that's what it's described as. It was a big deal in the Saiyan saga. If you go back and you watch it, they talk about it actually several times, that they get stronger after they're defeated. And then as time went on, this concept, you know, was de-emphasized more and more and more and more before you never even hear them talk about it anymore. I think it was all these different transformations and other power-ups that kind of just took center stage, and we'll just forget about that other thing.
Please use your power to restore the lives of all those who died on Earth since the wizard Babidi arrived there, except for the most evil ones.
During the Majin Buu saga, the wish that is given to Shenron to wish everyone back killed by Buu except for the really evil ones. Yet many characters that did evil things, like Frieza's troops, were seemingly revived anyways, which honestly just makes the definition of evil or evil enough so vague that they, you know, it's just one of those things that's never explained more than de-emphasized or inconsistent. What about this? Piccolo told Vegeta that only selfless, good people get to keep their body in the afterlife. Yet, later, a lot of bad guys like Cell and Frieza have their body in hell or otherworld. Their physical forms and all. Getting to watch the fights, etc. Why was that allowed? And finally, in Dragon Ball Super, Beerus claims he wiped out the dinosaurs on Earth. And what's the problem with that? Well, if you've ever seen Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z, you know there's been plenty of dinosaurs on Earth. They coexisted with humans throughout the whole beginning of the show, which, why did they even include this? You know Toriyama knew there's been dinosaurs in this damn show. They're on covers of some of the manga. Who knows? There you have it. 10 major retcons and some honorable mentions of things in Dragon Ball Z, things that shifted or de-emphasized, flip-flopped around, and messed with, making the lore a little bit more fluid than people love in their shows. Now, this is, again, like I said in my previous video, evidence of just kind of how willy-nilly Toriyama was with his writing style. And, you know, he didn't really, all these little minute details didn't matter too much in the bigger picture. And I think they still don't, honestly. My opinion, I don't care. They are things that happened, things that were changed, things that were swifted and schwafted, fliffed and flofted, as they say. But they don't really matter. The show is still great. Can't complain. Which of these retcons did you not know about, or were you surprised by? Did I miss any of yours that you know about that I didn't even mention? Something that's one of your favorites, something you wish was emphasized more later in the show that maybe they forgot about over time. Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to press like. And also, if you don't subscribe, I'm going to fly back up into space, where I guess I came from at the beginning of this video. I don't know. I don't know how I got here. I'm just here. See you next time, amen.